So basically, for the last episode of the 2021, I wanted to discuss some of the shows we watch and some of the shows we're most likely going to cover in the new year.
Mm.
But before that, we got to talk about the Dink,
The
Peter
Dink.
Dinklage's his weird comments regarding Game of. I'm going to
Yeah.
attribute these weird comments to him being annoyed. 2 or 3 years after the fact, people are still asking him about Game of Thrones,
Yeah.
even though he's gone on to do other things. And for those of you who don't know, Peter Dinklage, he was asked, I think by the New York Times or somebody, about the fans being upset towards, at the Thrones finale. And this is what he said. He said, they wanted the pretty white people to ride off into the sunset together. By the way, it's fiction. There's dragons in it. Move on. Joked Dinklage, who is set to star as the romantic lead in the new movie musical Cyrano. He said more things, but before we get to
Yeah.
that, um, they wanted the pretty white people to ride off into the sunset together.
Isn't
You mean
that
so
isn't that what
basically?
happened?
Exactly. Like, what are you talking about? Like, John and Tormund literally do that. Arya literally sails
Into the
into the
sunset.
sunset.
Yeah. Like everything's happy for Sansa. Like it's an outrageously happy ending. What except for Danny, I think was the surprise. But was everybody thinking that was he thinking that people wanted John and Danny together at the end? Because no one I don't know anyone that's really crazy about the John Danny romance. That's just like, oh, it's so perfect. It's so great. Like, does anybody feel that John and Danny should have ended up together and gone off into the sunset together? It's a really exceptionally happy ending for the beautiful white people. God.
The only happy ending for a non-white character is it's a kind of not really one is Grey Worm because once he gets to Noth, those butterflies are gonna fuck him up unless Missandei
Yeah,
told
it's
him
not
about
really a
that.
very happy ending for him, considering he didn't get anything he wanted. He had the love of his life die. He had the second love of his life die. I mean, he had both loves of his lives die. One, his political inspirational one, and then the other, his romantic one. They both died. He didn't get any real justice for it, and then he goes off to an island where, we joke that he's supposed to die because it's filled with poisonous butterflies. I don't think the writers were thinking that, and so, narratively, he's supposed to live, a peaceful life on Noth, but it's not that happy of an ending.
It's really not. Peter continues on and says, no, but the show subverts what you think, and that's what I love about it. Yeah, it was called the Game of
Hmm.
Thrones, but at the end, the whole dialogue when people would approach me on the street was, who's going to be on the throne? I don't know why that was their takeaway, because the show really was more than that, the actor
Hmm.
continued. One of my favorite moments was when the dragon burned the throne, because it sort of just killed that whole conversation, which is really irrelevant and irreverent and kind of brilliant on behalf of the show's creators. Shut up, it's not about that, he shared. They constantly did that, where you thought one thing and they delivered another. Everybody had their own stories going on while watching that show, but nobody was as good as what the show delivered, I think. I mean, I will say, if nothing else, kind of a ballsy statement to make after that disaster of finale. And actually, you know what? Speaking of ballsy, I'd like to take a second to thank the sponsor of today's video, Manscaped. That's right, we finally have a sponsor who's not Raid Shadow Legends, thank Christ. Manscaped is a fantastic company that specializes in making sure you're groomed and looking fresh no matter the situation. Their performance package, which I highly recommend, comes with the highly rated Lawnmower 4.0 with its skin-safe technology designed for maximum confidence while trimming below the waist, and the Weed Whacker to help you freshen up all your nose and ears hairs. Kind of gross, but of course, we gotta get rid of those. And it also comes with one item all men need, ball deodorant and toner, because, well, fuck you, that's why. For a limited time, Manscaped is giving the listeners of this podcast 20% off plus free shipping when you use code RED5 at checkout. That's promo code RED5. It'll help support the podcast, of course, if you decide to check this out, and you really should, because come on, let's be honest, you probably need it. I'll leave more info in the description below. Thank you, Manscaped.
So there, I think he's hinting at some of the things that some viewers had a problem with. Like, I admit that, like, everybody didn't like the ending, but people didn't like it for different reasons. And I think a lot of people really didn't like the fact that Arya stole Jon's story. Um, and or that in a minor sense, in a much lesser sense, that Jamie stole uh, Asha's story, Yara's story. Like little things like that. But so
Hmm.
I think I think some people were upset about the subverted expectations. But the thing about subverting expectations is you can't just subvert them and expect that to be brilliant. Subverting expectations is kind of like irony. It has to be unexpected, but even more fitting than the expected ending. Like, oh, which is, it's tough. It's tough to do. But I can't just, say I make a movie and it's a romantic comedy, and then we're gearing to the end, and the protagonist is running towards the airport, to tell the the person getting on a plane that he loves her, and then he's hit by a car and dies. Like, that subverts expectations, and it would be sucky. Like, what? Like, that comes out of nowhere. Like, I subverted. Like, you can't, like, subversion for the sake of subversion is nothing. What's great is when it's subversion and it's an ending that's even better, which is tough. It's really tough. But that's what you got to go. If you can't just be like, oh, it's subverted and it made everybody upset. No, like, Arya coming out of nowhere was stupid. That's why people didn't like it. Like, I think it was fair to say that, like, I think subverting expectations and making Jon not the hero it would be a good thing. But having Arya jump out of nowhere is stupid. Having something else happen is that's more fitting. Uh, is better. Is a better subversion of expectations. Ah,
Well, some people were saying that he's probably defending the ending because he still wants a job. He still wants to get
oh
work in
sure, yeah,
Hollywood.
yeah.
Maybe. But you had a great explanation as to why the actors and actresses kept defending the show. It was something along, correct me if I'm wrong, it's something along the lines of how they worked on this thing together. It was like a huge thing. It was kind of them versus the world in a sense. And there's a sense of camaraderie there with your coworkers, even though, the job kind of sucked or some of the coworkers you had didn't do a very good
Mhm.
job. There's still that sense of camaraderie there, and you're all going to defend the end product regardless of it. You remember what
Yeah,
I'm talking
yeah.
about?
Did I also bring up Shia LaBeouf in that conversation?
I think you
Yeah,
did.
about how Shia LaBeouf was just because Shia LaBeouf in a bunch of interviews gave his honest opinion of some of the work that he's done, including Transformers, and they essentially just said, "Oh, you're done. Like, what are you doing? This is a business." And that's the thing to remember. It's a business. So no, I don't expect these. I don't expect any honest experience, opinion out of the actors, because it's their job to act. It's their job to support the product. They want future work. And even if it were honest, like, you're biased. You spend a lot of time, like, devoted to something. You want you don't want it to you don't want to believe that it's all crap. You know.
Hmm. Don't worry, I could noise cancel that
That's
out.
fine. Yeah, yeah. I got a kid in the background making some noise.
Yeah, it's fine. But to wrap up this conversation, I also kind of don't like the whole "it doesn't matter who ends up on the throne. It's not about that" spiel, because for a lot of people, it's this interesting like game of musical chairs, and we all want to see who wins in the end. And yes, yes, there are other themes and lessons to be learned at the end of the day. But come on, stop it. That would be like saying it doesn't matter how he met the mother, just that he ends up with you know who in the end. No, I kind of want to know how he meets the mother in a show called How I Met Your Mother.